serve as Twitter's global chair of news, and she joins me now. Vivian, great to have you on. Thank you so very much. Tell me, is Yaccarino the right person for the job? I think many people are wondering whether she's going to be Musk's yes man.
I actually know Linda Yaccarino and worked with her at NBC, so I know her quite well, and I've seen her in action. She is nobody's yes man. She is as tough and as competent as they come. And which, of course, to me begs the question, does Elon Musk know what he's getting himself into? Because if he wanted someone who was going to follow orders, I don't think she's that person.
Okay, so he says that she's going to run business operations and that he is going to focus on technology and design. What is interesting is that he's also saying this is going to, help create and bring to fruition this platform X that he's been talking about. Yeah. But Twitter has a lot of problems first that they need to deal with before he can think about, creating a mega platform, a mega app.
Yeah, I mean, best I can tell, Elon Musk is going to be both her boss and her subordinate, which is unusual. Her boss as chair and, of course, the owner of Twitter, but as the person who's in charge of product and technology, that is a role that usually reports up to the CEO. So that's very unusual. But to your point about what she needs to clean up, absolutely. I mean, 90% of those messes were of Elon Musk's making that he introduced since he took over control of Twitter. He's decimated key parts of the platform. The content moderation policies are chaos. Advertisers have fled because they do not feel that it is a brand safe environment. And there's all kinds of other questions about the security of the platform and so on. So she's going to have to come in and mop up a lot of the things that he fixed. And crucially, and I'm sure this is the main reason he hired her, to regain the confidence of advertisers. But in order to regain the confidence of advertisers, she has to prove that Twitter is a safe space. To prove that Twitter is a safe space, Elon Musk is going to have to back off a lot of the very mercurial, chaotic decisions that he makes on the platform. That is a wide open question of whether he's capable of doing that.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I think in the age of misinformation that we've been seeing, whether Twitter is a safe space, we're worried about the blue check mark, the verification process. I mean, to be honest, it's an endless and it's a very long list that we've been seeing. Where does Linda start, would you say? What is the most important thing that she has to do as priority?
Well, I mean, her highest priority, and obviously the reason he brought her in, is she needs to regain the confidence of advertisers so they could so she can start bringing revenue into Twitter, so it's not hemorrhaging losses like it is today. But that is only going to be possible, and advertisers will only come back if Twitter is a clean, well-lit space. And right now it is not. It is not brand safe. I'm just reading reports today about the site being riddled with animal snuff films. There is, the blue check mark, the paying blue check mark brigade are, amplified up into the top of the timelines on Twitter. And a lot of it is spewing hate or nonsense or misinformation. So it is not a very good space and environment for advertisers to want to be next to with their products. So she's going to have to fix that in order to restore and build the revenue. So that's got to be a first priority. Well, let me tell you,
Twitter is ablaze with opinions. Yeah, and listen,
it is.
Twitter is ablaze with opinions in terms of, so it's been interesting. I have to say, I've been watching very closely. It's fascinating. Look, Vivian Schiller, great to have you on. Thank you so very much for your time.